You know, the founder of one of the world's biggest companies was rejected from dozens of jobs, including one at KFC? His story isn't about some brilliant idea that just worked right away. No, it's about a staggering number of failures. And honestly, that's what makes the rise of Alibaba so incredible.
And that's really the big question, isn't it? It just seems impossible. How does a guy who struggled to even get into college, who was turned down for job after job, go on to create Alibaba, a complete titan of e-commerce? So let's break down how he pulled it off.
All right, so to understand the empire, you really have to start with the man. And Jack Ma's early life, well, it wasn't exactly a highlight reel of achievements. It was more like a long list of things he just couldn't do.
I mean, just look at this timeline. It really shows you the struggle. Now, Ma was passionate about English. He would even practice with tourists just to get better. But he was terrible at other subjects. On his first college entrance exam, his math score? A single point. Just one. It actually took him 3 tries to finally get into a university.
And the rejections? They went way beyond academics. After failing to get into university, he and his cousin went to apply for a job at a hotel. His cousin got hired. Ma was rejected. And the reason they gave him? It was simply because of his appearance.
Okay, so he finally becomes an English teacher, and you'd think that's where the story settles down. But then, a trip abroad changes everything. It exposed him to a whole new world and set him on the path to his first major entrepreneurial test. And, you guessed it, his first major failure.
So in 1995, Ma gets sent to the US to help a company collect a debt. He didn't end up getting the money, but he found something way more valuable. He discovered the internet, and he saw its potential almost immediately. He knew this could be a fortune.
And he didn't waste any time. The second he got back to China, he borrowed 20,000 RMB from his parents, which was a huge amount of money back then, and he launched China Yellow Page. This was one of the country's very first B2B e-commerce websites. This was his first big swing. And he struck out. Big time. The whole venture was a complete failure. His first real attempt to harness the power of the internet just fizzled into nothing. But for Ma, it was just another lesson on a very long road.
So let's jump ahead to 1998. After a short stint working for the government, Marquez decided it was time to try again. He gathered a team in his tiny apartment and laid out a vision that was so much bigger than anything he had ever tried before.
And this is where you really see his charisma, right? Because he managed to pull in this incredible group of people. The original 18 co-founders were a mix of his wife, some of his former students, and colleagues. But his vision was so powerful, it also attracted some serious, high-powered talent. I mean, just take the story of Joe Tsai, for example. This guy had a high-flying job at an investment firm, making $750,000 a year, but he was so captivated by Ma's vision that he quit that job to join this tiny little startup for just a tiny fraction of that salary, becoming its CFO. That's belief.
And this was the vision they were all buying into. It's just unbelievably ambitious. Right from the start, from inside his tiny apartment, Ma was talking about building a company that would last for 102 years, so it would span 3 different centuries. He wasn't thinking about a quick payday. He was building a legacy.
But a grand vision is inspiring, sure, but it doesn't pay the bills. The hard reality was that Alibaba was running out of cash, and that led Ma on a frantic search for investors and a whole new round of rejections.
38. Just let that sink in for a second. 38 different venture capital firms told Jack Ma no. Imagine pitching your heart out, believing in your 102-year vision, and hearing no 38 times in a row.
But then, finally, a yes. Goldman Sachs and a few other firms. They saw the potential and they injected a crucial $5 million. This was the lifeline that kept the entire dream alive and got the company through those really tough early days. And that little bit of funding put them on the radar of some really big players. In late 1999, Ma had a meeting with Masayoshi Son, the legendary CEO of Softbank. And Son got right to the point.
And Ma's response? It's just brilliant. It's completely unexpected. Instead of begging for cash, he projected total confidence. He told one of the most powerful investors in the world that he didn't actually need his money. He was just there to have a conversation.
And that confidence? It worked. After talking for just 6 minutes, Masayoshi Son was completely sold. Ma's incredibly bold approach secured a massive investment that would basically fuel Alibaba's entire future.
But here's the kicker, and this is what's so fascinating about Ma's strategy. Son actually offered him $40 million, but Ma turned down half of it.
He believed that taking too much money too early would create way too much pressure and could corrupt the company's culture. He only took what he knew he needed to grow, not a single penny more.
So now, with the funding secured, all of that struggle, all of that perseverance was about to pay off in a huge, explosive way.
And when I say explosive, I mean it. By 2011, just over a decade after those meetings in his apartment, Alibaba's revenue hit 6 billion yuan. This wasn't just some successful startup anymore. This thing was on its way to becoming a global powerhouse.
See, the genius here was that they didn't just build one website. They built an entire world for their users, a whole ecosystem. They launched Taobao to completely dominate the consumer market, and then they created Alipay, which revolutionized digital payments in China. They locked users into their world.
So, that brings us right back to where we started. The story of Jack Ma isn't really about business or tech. It's a story about pure resilience. It forces us to ask what the true relationship is between failure and fortune, and if one is even possible without the other.